Once again, welcome in. It is another edition of the Unash and Dukes podcast. We thank you for joining us. Do appreciate that, and as well as all the support from our great sponsors, and they include our presenting sponsor, Emo's Hideaway on First Avenue Southeast in Cedar Rapids, right across from the Lindale Mall, next to the Home Depot. Ben Ritter Sportswear downtown, your complete apparel and headwear provider at 817 Second Avenue Southeast in Cedar Rapids. Hunt Graphic Innovations and Todd Hunt for helping us out. Do appreciate them. Dr. John Wolner at Epiphany Dermatology, and of course, American Family Insurance agent Kurt Gustafson on Johnson Avenue Northwest in Cedar Rapids, right across from the Johnson Avenue High V. And do us a favor, if you run across those good folks, tell them thank you for supporting us and the Unash and Dukes podcast. And we have a special guest today, Mr. Mark Dukes. By the way, Scott Unash, Mark Dukes. I'm going to let you do the honors because you guys, I don't know if you worked side by side for many, many years, but you were in the same room for many,
Well,
many years.
no, we were across the room from each other for a while, but he was within my eyesight and likewise. But I, everybody knows Mike Hlas. Everybody knows his story. Everybody has read him. Mike, great to see you and great to thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. How are you?
Good.
I like your background, by
How's
the way.
Yeah, just, I had a little time to kill, so I thought, why not get a little sun and surf?
how have you been the last month?
Dazed and confused. Not the usual kind either. Do you
One of
need
your
an
favorite
elaboration
authors.
on that?
Well, I think the background of the Gazette now retaining is pretty well established. We don't necessarily need to go down much down that road, but I think for all three of us, you in particular, as we talk to you, Mike, it's the industry in general and the world in general. I think it's more of a commentary in regards to what happened. It's more of a commentary of, how the industry has changed and how things have changed rather than any personal decision. And that's upon my reflection. I don't know about you.
Yeah, well, there's no question. I mean, uh, local newspapers, local radio stations, local television stations used to have monopolies. They just did. We were the kings and queens. But then something called the internet came along and it changed things. It changed things quickly. You either adapt or you die. And I think that nobody's quite figured out how to make newspapers adapt, which is why they're dying. And I see the same kinds of things happening with local TV. And, you guys were in local radio for so long, and it certainly bit you. The world changes and you got to change with it, or else you better find something else.
Well, and you have found something else. If people do not know, you are still out there. In fact, published something earlier on today, and let the people know where you are now, where you reside.
Okay, I'll try to make this quick because I don't want this to be a one long plug, but I am part of something called the Iowa Writers Collaborative, and it is over 70 reporters and uh, people who do commentary in all walks. It's like a newspaper or a magazine in some regards that way. It ranges from politics to business to culture to sports to just column writing, humor or what have you. And writers from all over the state, and they've kind of built up a network. Some real talents. I'm sure you're familiar with Art Cullen, the Pulitzer Prize winner in Storm Lake. Chuck Offenberger, who was with the Register for so long, the popular Iowa boy. There's a few sports people. Rob Gray, who was on your radio show many times over he covers Iowa State as a correspondent for the Gazette and works for Cyclone Fanatic. All sorts of people and all sorts of talents. And but you're is sort of your own boss. You set your hours, you decide when you write, you decide what you're going to write about, and the money that comes in goes to you. And it's not it's by subscription, but if people want to subscribe and just get it for free, they can't. Any people who want to pay for it are more than welcome to do that too. And I've been delighted with the early reaction. I think, naturally there was a big bounce in the beginning from people who knew me, but I'm trying to grow this thing and I'm trying to write um, coherent essays, timely. Uh, for instance, as you alluded to the last one, it was about the Iowa State sweeping the Cyhawk series in every sport that mattered, something that had never been done before. At the same time, looking at the Iowa men's and women's basketball teams and saying that I thought they both gave very good accounts of themselves in Ames. And those were two hard-fought, entertaining games. And I think it's a good time to be a basketball fan in the state of Iowa.
Mike, why do you think your a great career was more like, in terms of longevity, more like Kirk Ferentz's than Lane Kiffin's?
Well, I'm not going to speak for me, but Kirk Ferentz isn't Lane Kiffin, for one thing. I don't know why LSU's hiring that guy. I mean, that's their problem. But I mean, if you look at his record against ranked teams, it's terrible. And stability hasn't exactly followed him around either. There's, that SEC thing's crazy, crazy. Uh, all those schools, and there can only be one champion and three or four playoff teams a year. I mean, it's cannibalism down there. It's kind of fun to watch, really.
You never found the grass to be greener elsewhere.
Oh, I always thought it would be, but things happen the way they happened. And I'm not going to discuss decisions I didn't make at certain points because what's the point? There would have been, parts of me has regrets. I would have liked to have had different life experiences and different work experiences, but at the same time, and this was really hammered home in the last 3 weeks, when you do make roots, grow roots, you kind of wear people down. And by the time it's time to say goodbye, it's like, oh my gosh, you've actually got quite a few friends out there and you didn't even realize it. So that's been I mean, it's a cliche, but it was overwhelming. And things have settled down now, and it's going to back to, or it's going to where I knew it would all along, that everybody's forgotten quickly and pretty disposable.
You make a very good point, and I think it's one that Mark and I went through as well. And that is, you adapt, as my colleague John Hegarty says, adapt, improvise, overcome, and that's what you have to do. We did this obviously coming up with our podcast here, but the other thing is that you got to have something in the back of your mind that's okay. If this happens, it's like an AD with that Rolodex.
Mhm.
Matt Campbell leaves, boy, you better have something in the back of your mind. And I went through that. I know Mark went through that, and I'm sure uh, you went through that and found a place to land like that.
My biggest concern for quite some time is I don't need to work, and I that sounds like bragging. It's not meant to be. But I mean, I had a full career at the Gazette. I got to do anything really that I would have reasonably ever wanted to do. And I'm not living hand to mouth. I don't have kids to put through college. My house and my car are paid for. Dot 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 DDD. I'm never gonna. You're not gonna see me in any soup kitchens unless I'm a volunteer. So there's no pity here, no self-pity, and I certainly don't want anybody else's pity, and nor should they be silly enough to give it to me. I got everything I wanted out of my career and a lot more. I just want to stay busy. And I'm going to try and find a few different ways to do that. I still like to write, and I think that I can write different things that maybe wouldn't have worked in the format of my former job. Tell some stories, maybe be a bit more pointed, but I don't want to be edgy just for the sake of being edgy. And have some fun doing it and react to news of the day. One of the great things about sports is stuff pops out of nowhere. And I mean, that thing at Michigan in the last 2 days has been who could have ever, I mean, I never saw anything like that in my entire career. Uh, Things happen. And like the last 2 nights, the Iowa State games. Um, Very interesting things that certainly deserved commentary. So what I'm doing is I'm doing because I want to, not because I have to. And I think it'll be better for that reason, I hope, because there won't be constrictions and there'll be a sense of joy to it as opposed to I got to feed the beast.
Like several stories and events and people I want to ask you about. I know Scott does too, but in sports, there's event-driven writing and there's other writing. There's the Rose Bowl and the Masters and you know, Solon against Mount Vernon, whatever it may be. But I sense that you enjoyed as much, if not more, the behind the after career of Robert Gallery and the climbing of Mount Everest and going on to the news side and doing stories about the flood and the derecho. Am I in the ballpark?
I think so to a degree. I mean, there was a great rush to uh, being at a game that mattered, that had you know, that was eventful, that was dramatic, wild, crazy. Pick your adjective, and then coming up with a column about it in a short period of time that hopefully was cogent, captured it, told people things that they couldn't get just from watching it on TV. I mean that was still a rush this season. Iowa had some crazy games in football, a lot of close games. Some years you don't have any. But yeah, I've thought for a long, 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 long time that people want to read about people, and as well as hot button topics. But hot button topics usually are about people. They can get the X, Y, Z stuff, the box score stuff anywhere, and they do now. It's at their fingertips as the game's happening. They don't need a regurgitation of that. It's tell us something that we are not seeing. Tell us something behind the scenes that we can't get from our TVs or our laptops or our phones. That was fun. But the people stories are always the best because to me, people are more interesting than games. And I feel like over the course of my career, I got to interview a lot of absolutely fascinating people, famous and not famous. And in fact, the not famous were quite often more interesting because they spoke from the heart and without filters than people who've done this over and over and over again. So yeah, that was just me. I mean, I would rather read a piece about somebody that reveals character and reveals thought process and heart and soul and flaws than you know, diagram an end around.
Well, and I think that you talked about putting down roots, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that goes hand in hand with what you're talking about. I don't know if you go to, Minneapolis or Chicago or Detroit, your favorite place, or New York.
I like Detroit.
Mhm.
Never got to cover a bowl in Detroit, though.
No, no. Well, there's always something, there's always something you can't do.
But, the point being that I think you have more of a chance to talk about those stories of the people behind the scenes here than maybe you would at a newspaper that was much bigger.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Um, a fancy term for it is institutional knowledge. I don't know what that means. I think it's just it's more like inertia. I never went anywhere else, but you do. I mean, you do build up name recognition and reputation and so forth, and you can talk to anybody in this area that I mean, you could pick up the phone and say, "I'm so and so," and they know who you are. And that's not that sounds boastful, but it's not. It's just a simple fact. If you're somewhere long enough in the public eye, they're going to know who you are, even if they don't want to. But the fact is, it's like, okay, I don't have to tell them who I am, where I'm from, how long I've been working here, and what my intent is. I say who I am, and would you be willing to talk about this? And then they decide. And that's a great help. Plus, when you've interviewed certain people repeatedly, uh, they know if they can trust you or not. They know if you're going to be fair or not. And that only comes with time and with roots. In 1996, after the Olympics in Atlanta, I had met the uh, somebody with the St. Or the Fort Lauderdale newspaper, and we kind of hit it off. And he talked to me about coming down there, and it didn't pan out. And I often wondered if going there might have been the best move I ever made, or if it might have been the biggest mistake I could have ever made, because I didn't know a soul. I didn't have any roots. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know the landscape. I'd be coming in completely in the dark, really. And you can't change that overnight. And I'm wondering if I could have adapted and if I could have survived that and then gone on, or if it would have just made a mess out of my life, and I'll never know. And the fact is, I didn't go. There's no point in even really thinking about it.
Mike, it's almost impossible to talk about a Mount Rushmore of stories that you've been involved in or covered, but I want to get to a couple in particular. I've heard you speak about the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, but one story in particular that were both a part of, and that is the Chris Street story in 1993, January of 1993. And as I recall, I got the news around supper time that there had been an accident. So I go to the office, and before we could make any assignments, you were already in Iowa City, as I recall. Maybe you were there anyway. Maybe you weren't, but that was a story as I look back at the archives and what happened. I mean, a couple games postponed, and the game at Michigan State, the very next game, and then the home game against Michigan, and Street's parents are there. It's a story that, like Caitlin Clark, transcended sports.
It did. I mentioned the Michigan story and how I'm glad I never had to cover a story like that. I wish I'd never had to cover a story like Chris Street, of course. None of us, I mean, we're talking 30 plus years now, and it was just one of the most awful things. I drove to Carver when I heard about it to see if there was a gathering there of players of the team, and there had been, and they had a team meeting, and I was at the back entrance, and players were starting to come out, and I just didn't have the heart to approach any of them. I drove all the way there, and then I just stood there and I just kind of froze. It's like I can't go bother these guys in this moment. Couldn't do it. I never had a feeling like that before or since. I drove to a donut land that was on the Coralville Strip at that time and just banged out a very short column reacting to the news and drove back to Cedar Rapids in a daze. And then, several days later, I attended the funeral in Indianola, and it was well, it's not one of it was just almost in describable. The grief that was in that church and the bravery, the wherewithal of Chris Street's sister to give the talk that she gave. I get chills thinking about it. Literally, I get chills thinking about it because it may be the single greatest moment of courage I've ever witnessed in person. Um, and it took a long time for that to subside, that event. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's not something I've talked about a lot, but I just remember I was writing in the car. I wasn't driving back, so I wrote in the car, and when I got done pounding it out, I said, I never want to write another one of these again. And I, uh, I don't think I've had anything even came close to that.
No. And then on the flip side, the phenomenon of Caitlin Clark,
Yeah.
and which is a 180 from what you were just talking about with everything surrounding Chris Street.
Hmm.
From 4-year-old girls embracing
Hmm.
this phenomenon
And
to
94-year-old women and men.
exactly to
Hmm.
And
94
man,
year olds.
Yeah.
And it's still going on. It hasn't subsided, maybe a little bit at the collegiate level, obviously, but you turn on the TV on a Saturday for a sporting event, you see Caitlin Clark in a commercial somewhere.
I'll tell you a personal story about that. Um, 3 years ago, my mom was living with me, and she was beginning her descent, and it was getting rapid. And but she liked to watch Iowa men's basketball on TV. She seldom missed a game. Uh, Part of it was because she knew I was there, so she thought she was keeping track of me, even though she never saw me on the screen, but she knew I was there. So, but also because she just liked watching it. She's staying with us, and it was the Big Ten tournament, and it was the first Iowa game, the quarterfinals. And I asked her if she'd ever watched the women play. No, I'm not interested in that. I said, well, you got to see a number 22. So, because I was there and we were in the living room, it's like, yeah, okay. And so we watched it. Uh, by the time that tournament was over, my mom was a Caitlin Clark fan. She wanted to know when the game was on. And, the last basketball game she ever watched was Caitlin Clark. It was I'm so glad that I stayed on long enough for their runs of 2023-24 because it was the single best story I ever covered. It's so funny to me, all these years, and football is king. Football's king. But who is the one University of Iowa athlete that has connected with the country and beyond? And it was a woman's basketball player. We would never have thought it, but it is fact.
I want to ask you about writing per se.
I don't do it per se.
And I think we both know it's an imperfect art. It's an imperfect art, but I look back on the Gazette archives from time to time for research and whatnot. I come across one of my articles or columns. I said, God damn, did I really write that? That was really bad. Or I could have done it and maybe it still is. I don't know, but it's such a process, and it's such a. I don't think people appreciate the labor, and Scott makes it look easy on radio and the internet and whatnot. But talk to me about, you know, as you went through Iowa and progressed throughout your career, how your writing it had to improve.
I hope, because I've been in those archives too.
Yeah,
Look, there's nothing you can write if you're honest with yourself, you look back and say, I should have done this differently or that differently.
absolutely.
Oh yeah. But to me, that was part of the fun of it. It's unlike athletics in that I realize that there are, people can golf and play tennis and play softball for a long time, but there does come a time when you peak, and then it's not just downhill, it's quickly downhill. Writing is different. You should get better with each passing year, and I don't care how old you are. If you stall out along the way, you're just not trying. Because there are just so many ways of making things better, of thinking about things differently, of word usage, of structure, and mostly just simply the thought process. That it was never dull. It's sometimes the subject material would be dull. It's like there are only so many ways you can cover a football game between Iowa and Albany. It's you can't make chicken salad out of what's the expression? Chicken feathers. But but uh, but you can sit down with that blank screen looking back at you on any given day, and you can say, "I'm going to try this and see where it goes." And you don't always hit. Sometimes you hit pop-ups, but once in a while you connect. And when you do, it's satisfying. And I don't care how old you are.
A real quick story, Scott. I think the untold story of why Mike was so great. He was a great doodler. I don't know if he still is.
Oh God.
Uh, I remember walking across the room. I was walking across the room to talk to Mike about something in the office, and I looked down his legal pad, and there's lines and circles and words and shapes and uh,
None of it was
that that
obscene.
that was his thought process right there. And I
Yeah,
do the same.
I've never been able to find any kind of psychological reasoning for that. I've looked online, nobody even mentions it. So I think it just all boils down to like I must have cracked my coconut at some point, and that's that.
Hey, did you ever think? I mean, you went from the era of, okay, how did this athlete get a scooter to ride around in this blank college town to now $25 million is being allocated to pay athletes. There are general managers for football teams in college athletics. In your wildest dreams, when you started this thing, could you have envisioned that?
I always envisioned players getting compensated more than the scholarships that so many fans insist should be plenty. But I never thought that they'd kick down the door like this and it would be the wild, wild west. No, I we would have it would have been absurd if would have suggested that to you 10 years ago. You would have said he did crack his coconut. But it's to me it's the pendulum. The pendulum has been tilted so far the other way for so long that it's swung all the way over to the other side. And I think it's going to be quite a while before it comes back toward the middle. And as long as coaches are signing contracts for $8 million a year and getting 40, 50, 60 million dollar buyouts when they get fired, I don't think that they're going to have a leg to stand on as far as reining in what they're going to be paying athletes. The reality is this has always been professional sports. It's just that the inequity of who's getting the profits has changed. There have been a lot of people making a lot of money on the backs of the performers, of the people who are the reasons why the tickets get sold and are the reasons why the TV contracts get signed. And it was long overdue for them to share in the bounty of it. I mean, have you ever gone to a sporting event? Have you ever paid for a ticket anywhere to go watch a coach? No.
Johnny Orr, maybe.
But for how long,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, if anything, I watch these games on TV and it's like, quit showing me the damn coach. I know what he looks like. They make the same expression 95% of the time. Uh, no, I mean, the game last night, I wanted to see Bennett Sturts. I wanted to see Joshua Jefferson. I wanted to see this freshman that Iowa State's got from France, who Toure, who's such a defensive monster. And uh, I like watching the competition, and the people giving me that competition are those 20-year-olds.
Some things we don't miss about our careers. I can't. Maybe you like to travel, Mike, but all those mile markers on 80 or 74 or whatever, and the dead of winter, I don't know whether you're going to miss it or not.
No, it's like writing. Hate writing, love having written. Travel, hate traveling, love having traveled. I like being there. I like not getting there or getting there is not the part that's fun. I've been stranded in so many different states. Oh boy, but when the younger you are, the more tolerance you have for that sort of thing. Uh, Last night I'm watching the Iowa State game at home, and 50% of me wishes I was there at courtside. The other 50% says I'm glad I don't have that drive home.
In the middle of the
Especially on a
night.
2 lane, which it used to be.
Oh yeah. I mean, I had a few 3-hour drive homes from Ames, and
Oh,
one time I was stuck in Ames. It's just you can't. Don't do it. It's and I didn't. But I've been stuck at the Dallas airport overnight. I've West Lafayette, Indiana, on and on and on. I had a flat tire in Indiana between Chicago and South Bend on a Sunday coming back from Michigan. I drove up there to do two games. And back then, the Big Ten basketball schedule made sense. Iowa would always play at Michigan and Michigan State on the same trip. So they played at Michigan on a Saturday night. I think it was triple overtime. I could be wrong. And I can't sleep that night because the wind is howling so loudly outside. And it's got my nerves jangled because I know I have the drive home the next morning. I get into Indiana and I get a flat tire. Luckily, I had enough tire left to nurse it off and exit, and there happened to be something that you'll never see now, but a service station that had an attendant working on a Sunday. And so I got the donut put on the car and drove the rest of the way home. But while I'm in the service station waiting for them to do that, uh, in those days too, they had newspapers inside places where you could buy them and read them. The headline of the Chicago Tribune on that Sunday paper said, "Coldest day in history." And if I have that flat tire 1 mile earlier, I'm probably not sitting here talking to you right now.
Or I'll just say this, or some of the media puddle jumpers of the day.
Yeah, and they call us the fun and games department. Okay.
Well, we are, and we know that. But into every life, a little rain must fall. One time I was flying in on one of those puddle jumpers we were going to Northwestern on a Saturday morning. And I kid you not, I could tell you everything that was on TV in Chicago that morning because we were facing people's living rooms. this was not the way to come in.
Here's one, Mike. I'm covering Kansas State and Manhattan, and coming back through Kansas City. I'm sitting in the airport, or actually going there. I'm sitting in the airport in Kansas City, and there's a connecting flight, and this guy comes up to me and says, "You going to Manhattan?" Yeah. Follow me. And we go down these steps and go out on the tarmac, and there's this damn two-seater on, on the tarmac. It's just me and him. He said, "You want to sit in front or back?" And so I sit in front, throw my stuff in back, and off we go to Manhattan. I mean, some of the stories that people don't hear.
Oh yeah, I have an incredibly similar story to that from down there. I flew commercial into Manhattan. I don't know what airline that was, but so I get there and I get a cab. I didn't have a rental car. I didn't even know if they had rental cars. And the cab driver asks Manhattan or Junction City, and it's like, where the hell am I? But coming back, I go back to the same airport, and I don't know if there's a snafu with my flight. It was a long time ago, but I got offered a ride to Kansas City. While we're going there, the guy asks, "Hey, would you like to see Leavenworth?" And I said, "You're not going to pull right up to it, are you?" "No, I mean fly over it." Okay, that I'll do. I did it just to humor him. I didn't really get the full taste of Leavenworth, thankfully. But yeah, oh God, I mean, I could go on and on about this stuff, and it's boring. But covering basketball in the Midwest is it's a test.
It really is. It really is. Where do you, last one from me. Where do you see things in 10 years? If we're all still here, if the great triumvirate here is still around. I mean, we got I tried to watch an Oregon Washington Big Ten game. I couldn't make it through the first quarter because that's not Big Ten football. Um,
No, no,
what in the world is going to be? What's it going to look like in 10 years from now?
I don't know. Look, 5 years ago, again, if I said USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon in the Big Ten, oh, he's being weird again.
I still thought we were on the air when that happened. I still think to this day it was a joke.
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh yeah, right. Whatever. UCLA is
Yeah,
going to be in the Big Ten.
right. I know. I know. All for TV markets and but what they did, I think it's and I realize all the power schools are going to be all together in their little cabal at some point. It's just about there now. But you can't have a conference with 18 teams and schools on both coasts. What's the point of it? You've got to maintain rivalries. You've got to maintain something that you have in common, and you can't ask your fans to follow you to Eugene, Oregon, or to Piscataway, New Jersey. It just doesn't ring true. You can't force rivalries, and you've taken a lot of great rivalries and you've diluted them. And I know it's old-fashioned talk, but boy, I mean, yeah, the Big 12 is geography soup, and so is the ACC. California and Stanford are in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Uh, how do you explain that to third graders taking geography? It's like when the Iowa
They
Cubs
do
have been
they
in the
do that,
Pacific.
Mike?
Yeah, when the Iowa Cubs were in the Pacific Coast League all those years, it's like that's not right.
Yeah, I know we need to wrap this up, but finally, my last thing, we could talk forever, but one of the things about you staying home, Mike, was that um, you met your wife, Pam, and I know she means a lot to you. Actually, I wish she had a cameo on this thing to really set us all straight about the life and times of Mike Hlas. But seriously, I know that's meant a lot to you.
Yeah, well, uh, what has been a really good thing for me is she used to be in the newspaper industry. She understood. She understood the crazy weekends, the nutty hours, the if I got a phone call during dinner, I had to drop leave the food on the table and get on the phone or get to the laptop, all that stuff. And it makes a difference because a lot of people don't understand it. And she is hasn't been in the journalism field for over 20 years, but she's still a reporter at heart. And
Yeah.
that was good too, because she could always tell you that's a good story. You should do that. And you needed to hear it. And so that's not the number one reason why I hold her in esteem, but it's definitely in the top 100.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Mike, we could do this for about 3 more hours, but join us again sometime, will you? Will you promise us that?
Can you get me some of that good sponsorship in case I want to do one of these someday?
Hey, I subscribe to Substack. I haven't pulled the trigger on giving them all
No,
those
that's all right.
important numbers.
No offense taken. MikeHlas.substack.com. You just go there, subscribe. You don't have to read it, just subscribe.
Very good. Hey, Mike, appreciate you, buddy.
Likewise.
And
Thanks,
thanks
Mike.
for coming on.
All right.
All right. Mike Hlas, ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap things up here on the Unash and Dukes podcast, as we have been talking with Mike, we're going to have him on today. Dan McCarney's coming up on Monday, Mark. Looking forward to Coach Mack. I know Mike talked about the SEC. We're going to hear some SEC stuff from his days in
I
Florida.
guarantee you, we've already done this interview. We're going to wait till Monday.
See, I was trying to fool the people there.
I described it as unplugged. You got to listen to it and watch it.
Yeah, Dan McCarney unplugged. But big thanks to Emil's Hideaway, our presenting sponsor. Emil's Hideaway on First Avenue Southeast in Cedar Rapids, right across from the Lindale Mall. And thanks as well to Dr. John Woolner at Epiphany Dermatology on Council Street Northeast. The good folks at Bib Ritter Sportswear in Cedar Rapids, Kurt Gustafson Agency of American Family Insurance on Johnson Avenue Northwest, and Hunt Graphic Innovations. They help us out with the podcast and with crmlivesports.com. And thanks to Mike Hlas. We will talk to everybody coming up again with our next episode of the Unash and Dukes podcast. So thank you for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. And so long.